Hello everyone, thanks for joining us for this BFI Film Academy Southwest Recommends Q&A presented by Watershed in Bristol. I'm Laura and today I'm chatting with filmmaker Guyuan Ma about her new film Asian Brass, which has been selected for the UK Student Awards at Encounters Film Festival 2021. It's lovely to meet you.
It's lovely to meet you too, Laura.
So the first question I want to ask you is, can you describe your film in a couple of sentences?
Wow, couple of sentences. That's very complicated. It's a complicated story. Okay, let me try. So it's actually an elegy written for my hometown. Ping, as a protagonist, she was overwhelmed. She was overwhelmed by a lot of disappointing trivial matters in her life, such as, for example, she is sick of, dealing with the so-called bad students every day, which makes her feel absurd. And she also feels so repressive in the huge teaching machine as this, the education environment. And also she dates secretly and regularly with a married teacher. So all this makes her be able to see her dead grandpa, like a ghost haunting her more and more in the old house awaiting demolished. Yeah, basically that's the story.
And that only scratches the surface, doesn't it? It's impossible to put into words. And when people do have a chance to see the film, or if they have already seen it, what do you personally hope people take away from it?
Well, I want them to first of all, I want them to like the film. But I want them to feel some poetic feeling, as if they just finished reading a poem. I want the film like a poetry. So it's not a very a regular like a fictional storytelling, like usually a storytelling techniques film. It's like more like a poetry. There is a flow in this film that is led by the personal feeling in this film. And I also want it to be an existential, how to say the word, existential film. Like if people can say, okay, through this film, I feel I'm going through with the protagonist, even if I didn't share the same experience with her. It reminds me of the past, my history with my hometown, or the person that already passed away, that kind of thing, and which makes us more aware of what we are going through right now and where we should go spiritually. Then I will feel very, very honored and proud of it.
Yeah, well, I felt all those things when I watched it. It's amazing. It's such a
Oh, really?
I think saying poetry makes a lot of sense actually when you say that. When I watched the film, it's not like a regular film experience, I thought, especially in terms of the narrative. And in terms of the narrative, the film was part of the Past Within program for the Encounters Festival. And how do you think this theme reflects the themes within the story that you wanted to tell?
I think that the Past Within program is like aims on the the relationship between we and the past, or like we reconnect to the past and the family histories. And I think that's actually exactly describe the theme of my film. Like very exactly, because when I made this film, what was in my mind is when I was in London, there was a time when I feel quite lost spiritually. I didn't know where I was, what I was doing here in this unfamiliar metropolis. And at that time, I suddenly felt my grandpa was patting on my back, which is unreasonable because he was hundreds of miles away, thousands of miles away in China, in my hometown. And he is an 80-year-old illiterate peasant who only knows how to cultivate his own land. And of course, he won't know. He won't know any of my disorientation. But that moment, it makes me made my decision that I should make this film, because everything, new things, keep clouding into our memory. But we should know where we should go. Like the Asian brass is actually a metaphor of the vast yellow land in China, which stands for hometown. And Asian brass is actually the place where we live, we grow up, and we die. So actually, Asian brass is the title of a poem written by my favorite poet, Haizi, a Chinese poet. The first 3 lines in this poem is like, Asian brass, grandpa died here, father died here, and you will die here too. You are the only land to bury us. So this poem is the inspiration for me for a long time, but I think this phrase is so beautiful, and I insist using this title as the title of my film. And I think it sums up the theme of the film.
Yeah. Wow. There's so many different layers to this, which I was so excited to speak to you because I had so many questions about the film and what it meant to you. And before we get on to really the film itself, just wanted to ask, what have you enjoyed about being part of the film festival? Did you have a favorite other short film? Have you enjoyed working in the industry? Like,
actually, first, I'm really thrilled, my film to be selected by Encounters, because I know it's a very big and important film festival in UK. Since I entered London Film School, I already know this film festival, and I want to be part of it from a very early time. But honestly, I didn't have any time, since September the 1st. Because I already I was participating in a film festival in China. I just finished it, and I'm in the middle of another film festival. As you can see, I'm in a hotel room, so quite busy. I didn't stop to have a break yet. So after 21st, which is 3 days before the closure of the film festival, I will have time to really calm down and have a really dive into Encounters Film Festival. And I just watched one film, which is called The Space Between Us, and I think I really like it. Only one film by now.
Please relax. Well, it sounds like you've been really busy, but deservedly so.
Yeah, I hope I can be there in UK. I miss in UK.
I hope so. But then on to you yourself as a director. I think what's really striking about your film is just how kind of quiet it is. It's so internal and observational, and not just in terms of style, but also the kind of themes that you like to portray in your films. What kind of stories are you most interested in telling as a director, and how are you most interested in telling them?
I think there is a huge varieties of themes and stories I want to tell. In the beginning of making films, I think teachers told us the most is you should dive into your own personal experiences. And also, yeah, this helped me a lot. My first short film is called Ink. It also was inspired by my own story, which happened in my high school. And this story is also based on the story of my dear friend, one of my close friends. She is a middle school teacher, and she had this secret love affair with another married teacher. And I want to, she's like kind of stuck in it, in this small town. And via her story, I want to express the feeling I had at that time. So it's also a very personal story and feeling for me. Also, it's not a very regular, narrative story. But when I finished this story, this film, I felt like I'm a snake who just taking off my skin. Yeah, so it's quite a grow up for me. But except for this personal part, I think I'm also interested in quite a lot of a lot of different varieties. For example, recently I'm quite since a long time ago, I started to be interested in sci-fi stories. I'm a huge sci-fi fan, and I've written a feature script, which is also a sci-fi film. And recently I just finished a short sci-fi story, and I want to make it out. I'm also interested in crime stories. These kind of stories, they can be quite deep, and they can be connected to people's psychology part. So I think the most interesting thing is I can explore people's mind. That's a common thing in all those different varieties.
You've touched on this a couple of times, but I wonder, you mentioned how you felt as though your grandfather was tapping you on the shoulder when you were feeling lost in London, and about how it was an elegy to your hometown. And so how do your own experiences, how do you find that your own experiences manifest in the films you create? And how does it feel kind of making that balance between the personal and then the fictional? And how do you find that?
The feeling was evoked by my own experience. But when I make this film, I need to make it like an art. Like, there is storytelling techniques inside, of course. So I need to take the best part of it that make me feel emotional and touching, and believe that audience will also feel the same. I will keep that as a core, and the thing around it, I will change. I will make the best use of the materials I can get, and make the story like short and compatible and workable, like this. So I remember when I made the short film Ink, my first short film. It's actually a story that happened in my high school when I liked a boy, and I challenged him that if you dare to drink the ink, there's a ink bottle that we washed our pen in a water bottle, and the water becomes ink. And I challenged him to drink the ink as a foolish girl. And he said, okay, if I drink it, then you should drink it too. I said, okay, that's a deal. And then he drank it, but I didn't dare to. And at the moment, my best girlfriend rushed over and drank the ink water for me. And that moment meant a lot to me. Not only that she want to help me out of this dilemma, but also she want to show off in front of me and make me like just inferior than her, and make the boy notice her. So it's a very complicated situation. And when I thought of the moment a long time later, I think that's a very cinematic moment. When the ink, we wash the pen in the ink spread in the water, that moment is very cinematic. So I just grabbed this moment and made it into my film. But there is actually no, the triangle love story between me and the boy and my best friend. There's no such story, but I just made this triangle love story and make it more concrete. Yeah. More or less like this.
The final question I wanted to ask you actually is, in Asian Brass, something that's very striking is this kind of dual world existing between the past and the present. And I wonder, because the ending to your film is no part of your film is obvious, like you have to really look into it and experience it. And I wondered if you could talk a bit more about the presence of the difference between the past and the present in the film, with the architecture, with the characters, with the ghosts, and what this means to you.
What is, sorry?
And what it means to you, and what it means within the film for you.
Oh, yes. Actually, there are a lot of symbols in this film. I tried to make these symbols common to audience, but of course there are unique meanings to me. For example, the goats. In this past pastoral life, when I lived in the countryside with my grandpa in the old house. By the way, the old house is the place I lived with my grandpa.
Really?
And the dead grandpa in this film is actually my own grandpa too.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Oh, cool.
Yeah, so yeah, they carried a lot of memories of mine. And the goat, there is a goat. There is always a goat, like living in front of our old house. Since I was a little girl, I always fed her with vegetables, leaves, etc. And the goat, of course, the goats, they are not the same goat. They kept dying, and the new babies becoming, grow-ups. But there is always a goat there in my memory. So it's like, it's always with my grandpa. And it stands for this, very soft, mild, lovely experience. And this, white, lovely creature, which is harmless, absolutely harmless in this world. And it's the purest part of your heart. Another symbols, let me see. What symbols, what other symbols you refer to?
Just for example, it's interesting that you have this recurring theme about the destruction of the house, and the radio, talking over the radio about new houses will be built and they'll be better, and then you kind of, a lot of people seem unsure as to where they stand in their current, so like their current place in society, whether that's as a teacher or an unruly student.
Yeah, this is a true situation for me and for a lot of Chinese people right now. There is a tomb in the film. Do you remember? It's a magic, like when we spot the locations. When I found this tomb, it stands in the middle of a hill, a small hill, and the hill faces a huge, vast, empty land, which is like just turned all the buildings on it just turned down, and there's now it's empty, and the tomb is the only thing left there. It's quite ironic, and this is true too, that everything is turned down and nothing there yet like stands up. So of course we will feel lost. We will feel like, where is our new hometown right now? And the old house in my real life, the old house, the place I lived for a long time when I was a kid, is also called like a dangerous house. And keep away from dangerous house. There is a sign on this house that it says, keep away from dangerous house. Of course, it's not to be demolished, but it's already dangerous house, and there are no longer people live inside, because the young people, they already go to big cities, and nobody wants to live in this old house, in this pastoral life anymore. This is a real situation in China, that all the countryside, although it means pastoral life, but there is no energy anymore. So what can we do with them? But I always feel that they haunted in my memory, and it still is the place I get my energy from. Yeah,
that's really beautiful. You are a poet.
Oh, thank you very much.
Well, I think we'll wrap up there.